Hi. So, for this lesson, we're going to be looking at the topic of resilience. And this fits well with the topic of socioeconomic status and poverty that we also look at during this chapter. So, let's start with the definition. What is resilience? It is basically your ability to adapt and overcome some sort of adversity or challenge, right? So, let's watch this short video that talks a little bit more about it.
What is resilience? In short, resilience is the ability to cope when something goes wrong. From our ancestors' instinct to survive to modern-day stresses and strains. Our resilience has helped us to bounce back when things haven't gone to plan. But what does resilience look like? People who are more resilient are likely to be better at solving problems, ask for help when they need it, and have a can-do attitude. People who are less resilient are likely to struggle under pressure, experience symptoms of anxiety and depression, and often feel deflated and hopeless when things go wrong. So what can you do to boost your resilience?
Well, that part we'll get to eventually, but for now, let's still look a little bit deeper at what is resilience. For instance, in current research findings, we've been finding a decline in resilience in school age children. Why? Well, we've got two reasons. One of them is related to the COVID pandemic. So, when we were all sent home and schools were closed and we were doing remote learning, expectations were lowered, learning was greatly disrupted, and our studying habits changed. Then, 2 years later, we're all go back to the school system and everything returns to normal. And we found students weren't really ready to face that pressure to go back to these higher expectations and very different modes of learning. Another reason why we think there has been such a decline in resilience in children has been more time on digital devices. So we looked at this some when we talked about the anxious generation. So digital devices give you instant rewards for very little effort, right? I mean, you just touch your app and then suddenly you have fun videos to watch and you really don't have to do much. Also, what we have found is students who are having trouble with mastering certain skills, like simply completing their work, is because they're having a hard time with tolerating frustration. They're having a hard time with persisting and, to keep going, which is one of those skills that you gain with resilience. So it's the idea that we're making our children less capable of handling problems and giving them that instant gratification that you can get from your device. All right, so why is resilience important? Resilience does lead to being a more successful individual. It gives you that grit and tenacity to keep going, even when things get tough, to not just give up. It can also help you with your social skills. Resilient individuals have an easier time making friends, handling family issues and conflict, and mastering a sport or a hobby. Any sport or hobby is going to have its ups and downs. There are going to be times that you really um, have to push yourself to keep going even when it's difficult. And that's where that resilience comes in. Resilient kids know how to regulate their emotions, they have less anxiety, and they simply better off psychologically. Now, here are some signs of poor resilience skills. So, this is indicative of individuals who have a difficult time with resilience. First of all, they have a hard time handling frustration. So, when things don't work out their way, they tend to crumble rather than kicking into problem solving mode. You're more likely to see temper tantrums, outbursts, refusal, things like that in the classroom. They don't have much motivation to work hard, so they're going to be more likely just to give up than to keep going. And they're afraid of failure. And because they're afraid of failure, they may not even try in the first place. So, we're going to look at ways to promote resilience in our students, but I want you to keep in mind there are two different groups of students that we're talking about here. One is high risk students. And we talked about this when we looked at poverty, and we talked about how students who come from low SES households are going to be at more risk academically. So we need to help them with their resilience skills. But what about children who are born without challenges, those who are used to being handed everything that they want, those who have overprotective parents that prevent them from having any difficulties in their life? Basically, I thought this quote was very relevant. We've become a culture of trying to make sure our kids are comfortable. We as parents are trying to stay one step ahead of everything our kids are going to run into. And the problem is that real life doesn't work that way. So, again, the point I want to make is all children can benefit from resilience. This is not just for your high risk students. So, I'm going to go over 6 key tips for fostering resilience. Number one, build relationships with your students, between the teacher and the student, and between the students themselves. So, first of all, get to know your students personally. They all have a story. And by understanding who they are, what they like, and what they're going through, you're in a better position to connect with them and to help them. In addition to that, build a sense of classroom community. They need to learn how to work together. They need to feel like they're part of a unit or a community. We've talked about this under various other headings in this class. Feeling connected is a wonderful buffer against stress, which can help you to be more resilient. So here's one cute example I saw for a way to do this. Here's a teacher who realized that kids need social time too. So she found a way to incorporate collaborative, fun activities into their routine to give their students, time to again talk, get to know one another, and build that classroom community. So I thought I'd ask, what are some ideas you might have for building a classroom community? Well, I saw this example, and I think you could do this at anywhere from an elementary to a high school, a campus wide idea. In fact, at my daughter's school, at the end of each school year, they do a school-wide hide and seek through the entire school building. So it really brings students together in a way that is fun. So let's continue. Number two, in terms of ways of helping to foster resilience, help students to manage their emotions and stress. Most of the research that I've read really talks about the key to resilience is emotion regulation. So, why do I have these pictures down below? So, at the very bottom, it says Brain Rules for Baby. This is an amazing book, not just for parents, not just for early childhood educators. It is based upon neurological research that focuses on the fact that by understanding our emotions, labeling them and controlling them, it helps improve mental health all the way through your adult years. So, why do I have Daniel Tiger there? Daniel Tiger is a series of shows made for little kids that I believe is based upon this Brain Rules for Baby book because it's all about helping students understand their emotions. So, emotion management gives them the tools that they need to stay calm, to focus, and to be able to handle difficult situations. Again, all things that are extremely necessary and integral for developing resilience. Now, I have some examples because this is an area that I'm very much interested in. So, first of all, when it comes to helping them learn how to control and calm down, both of those books on the far left, Calm Down and Work Through Anger and Calm Down Time, I used to use both of those with my daughter with great success, with helping her learn how to, breathe and focus and to quit being angry when she was having emotional outbursts. With older students, you can use something like you have on the right. Adding to this, students need to know that their feelings are okay. They're going to get angry. They're going to be sad. They're going to get frustrated. They need to know that that is okay. They need to be able to identify those emotions and they need to learn how to control them. These are some wonderful books for younger students. The Spot of Emotion series is great. There's probably 20 some different books. The ones here with the bunnies were ones that I used when my daughter was growing up. So it really helps them to understand, what does it mean to be angry? How does it feel? And what should and shouldn't you do when you're having that emotion? Adding to this, consider things you can do in your classroom to help students manage these difficult emotions, whether it's a peace corner, and we'll see some examples of that, focusing on breathing techniques, yoga, different readings you can incorporate. Here's a quick video showing what I mean by peace corners.
What were y'all discussing?
Nothing.
I've seen a lot of my kids this year, instead of just like exploding and getting really upset, they are aware of their emotions. And before lashing out, they will be like, okay, I need to go to the peace corner.
At Fall Hamilton, we have students who are currently experiencing some serious tragedy in their lives. When they walk through the door, they don't leave everything at the door. They bring it with them.
Do you need to take a break? Yeah?
So we're trying to build the capacity for them to be able to know what to do when they're frustrated or when they're angry. So we're using peace corners.
There is a peace corner in every classroom. That is a place that a student can go if they need a break, if they just need a timeout, they're having a hard time. There's going to be some comfy pillows or a bean bag. There'll be some fidgets, different things to help de-escalate that student.
If I get like really frustrated and feel like I'm gonna yell, or get mad at somebody, I go to the peace corner and just calm down.
We set a 5-minute timer, so they know that they have 5 minutes to kind of cool down. If it's really bad and they need some extra time, I said they can flip it again and take their time.
My teacher has this sheet that you fill out. It tells you how you feel, what choice you made, and what should you do to make it better next time.
And I think that's an excellent example because it's not just a place for them to go and play with fidgets and get out of school responsibilities. By having that sheet and by having some sort of accountability there, it makes them take that time to reflect upon why they're there, to develop some problem solving strategies, to think about how they might be able to change things for next time, and to reflect on their feelings. So there are so many ways you can do peace corners, and you can make it at, age appropriate based upon the grade that you're teaching. And I like this idea down below where you really talk with them about, so when should you use it and when should you not use it? Peace corners aren't the only thing you can do. So with older students, you could focus on things like yoga. There are books that they can read. You can focus on drawing, journaling, again, breathing. And finally, I do want to mention that there are also some great ways you can connect pieces of literature to your assignments to focus on things like how people handle stress. I saw this example recently from, again, near where I live. This is Warren Local High School, where they're incorporating karate, yoga, and music therapy to help students deal with daily stressors. What a wonderful idea. All right, so now for number 3. This one says we need to develop a growth mindset. This is a different way of looking at learning, where what you emphasize is effort. Okay, so what's most important is trying. That it's not about getting it right the very first time you do it. It's about putting in that effort and working through it, and that sometimes things are going to take time. There are lots of great resources you can find online to help teach your students or focus on things like growth mindset, and it does include things like, when do you show perseverance? There's some great journaling you can get for both younger and obviously older students to get them to really think about and practice skills related to a growth mindset. Along with this, one of the things you want to focus on is changing their negative self talk. I love this example down below. So it says, change your words, change your mindset. So in the middle are things that students might commonly say, like, I'm not any good at this. I can't do math. And then you give them post-its and they have to find a way to rephrase that in a positive way. So rather than saying, I can't do math, they could say, math is a challenge, but I know if I work hard at it, I can get better. That sort of thing. Also adding to a growth mindset, to see learning as a process. Again, this idea that you don't have to get it right the first time. Learning takes time. It's a journey. Um, Help learners to think about the fact that academic setbacks, like let's say you get a C or a D on a paper, is temporary. It's solvable. And reinforce when they put that effort in and adapt and try to improve. So, one thing you might want to do is have a process of accepting revisions on papers or even redo on exams. The idea that, you know what, if they don't do well at something, they can try again because it is the trying and the effort and the learning that is important. There are a lot of fantastic books out there. These are all, well, most of them are nonfiction, except for obviously the one below with Marie Curie, but focusing on teaching about mistakes and learning from mistakes. These are more biography related, that are also all wonderful examples of individuals who failed and failed and failed, but learned from their failures and did even better because of that. So, help students focus on what we learn from our mistakes. That's what's important. Reframe those setbacks as being something that is important, an important moment in their academic journey. Mistakes are not terminal. Mistakes are simply one way that we can grow. So, again, just food for thought. It's always nice to think about, so what's something I could do in the classroom, or maybe something you've already seen in the classroom to help students develop a growth mindset. These are great things to keep in mind when you're out there at your field placements. All right, number 4, try to model what you want to see in your students. Remember, modeling is important. Students observe you and sometimes imitate you. So, model what you want to see. Try to be calm. Try to show good problem solving. Try to be consistent. I absolutely love this quote below. When little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not to join in their chaos. In addition to this idea, demonstrate coping skills. Share how you navigate difficulties. Talk with them about how, whenever you're stressed or whenever you have some sort of an academic challenge, what do you do? Do you close your eyes and breathe and count to 10? Do you practice yoga? Is quiet time helpful for you? So, again, be a good model for your students. Number 5, help them learn how to problem solve. We cannot assume that our students come to us knowing how to problem solve, because many of them don't. It's just like critical thinking skills, it is a learned skill. So perhaps when you have a large project, help them learn how to break it down into smaller chunks, help them practice finding solutions. All of this is going to build their confidence and make them better at handling problems in the future. There are also tons and tons of great books out there that focus on the idea of problem solving. And also, it's really hard to sometimes not give in and just give them the answer, because as a teacher or as a parent, we have the answers. We can just give them the answer. But if we want to teach them to problem solve, we can't do that. We've got to resist the urge to fix the problem for them. I love this quote over here to the side that says, "The best teachers don't give you the answers. They just point you the way and let you make your own choices and your own mistakes. And that way you'll get your all the glory and you'll deserve it, because again, you learn from your mistakes too." Number 6, promote healthy risks and challenges. So this one we'll spend a little bit of time on. So challenges that push them out of their comfort zone without harm. So down below, I've got a picture of my daughter at her school's Christmas madrigal dinner. I've probably mentioned before in class the difficulties that she has had with public speaking, and how that's something that's really challenging for her. But by trying it and by doing it, I've noticed that she is getting better at it. And I really pushed her to this idea of taking on a role in the school play, to get up on stage, have a microphone in her hand. And that was a risk for her. That was a healthy risk and a challenge. And it was something out of her comfort zone, but it helped her. And hopefully next time she'll try out for a bigger part in the play. Now, those are academic challenges. We're going to be focusing on a different type, which is play. I saw this on a post through the United Baseball Parents. It says, I see people overwhelmed with very little demands on their life. And the idea that perhaps our lives have gotten too easy and too safe. And because we keep our children so safe and protected, we're not getting as resilient as we used to be because we don't have adversity. And some things are simply learned through adversity, challenge, risk, whatever you want to call it. So, I'm going to be talking about risky play. And some of this does come from the anxious generation. I've got their book down below. And we're going to look at some of the things that children get through risky play. Physically, they get to explore diverse movements, gross and fine motor skills. Um, they get to explore things that they're not going to get simply by, for instance, walking. There's a nearby elementary school to me, and I see them at recess and they have them walking on a track. That's it. All the students are walking on the track throughout their recess. Well, I'm not sure that that's really going to be teaching them much. So I'm a big fan of this idea of risky play for kids. There's a wonderful group called Outdoor Play Canada. They have a lot of things on their website talking about why kids need excitement and appropriate risk in their play. This is something that my daughter's school embraces wholeheartedly. You can see that they have a very unusual type of recess. Last year we had chickens, and if students felt comfortable, they could go into the chicken coop with the chickens. They're allowed to climb trees. They play tackle football. We have lots of wood and items around the playground, and they can build structures and things. So it's this idea of the things that they can learn by challenging themselves and testing themselves out on the playground. And in the winter, one of the favorite things for both, I think, the parents and the kids is they get to go sledding. A lot of sledding. And, again, this all fits under that category. So, risky play, what else can you get? Socially and cognitively, you can develop skills as well. It helps them navigate social dilemmas. You learn about turn taking and how do you handle it when somebody's not following the rules. You learn to practice problem solving. So, what do you do to resolve some sort of a difference on the playground? I think we're starting to in schools take this out of students' hands. So I saw this example of a overprotective elementary school, and so look at the rules that they have for everyone. Include everyone. Yes, obviously, I think that's important, but okay, resolve disagreements with rock, paper, scissors. Football can only be played if an adult is supervising, no kickoffs, all this sort of stuff. Maybe there are some things that students can learn better by figuring it out on their own without everything being so mandated. Psychologically, what do we get from risky play? Well, I think this part is really interesting. So, anxious children have a hard time with uncertainty. Uncertainty doesn't feel good. And anxious children tend to interpret uncertainty or ambiguity as bad, right? So, when they feel ambiguous, they're not sure what's going to happen, they're uncertain, even uncertain about how a movie's going to end, they get stressed about that because to them that is a bad feeling. They feel like this picture down below, out of control and powerless. In risky play, you get to practice dealing with strong ambiguous emotions, thrill and excitement when you're climbing a tree, right? Or when you're balancing on a balance beam and walking across somewhere. And yes, you might fall, but also you might have a great time. So what else happens is children have a hard time interpreting thrill and excitement. Thrill and excitement can be interpreted as fear and terror in individuals with anxiety. So, the more practice you get with ambiguous situations and uncertainty, the more you start to be able to differentiate between these and get more comfortable with uncertainty. And our world is nothing if it is not uncertain. So, what we see is kids who avoid risk internalize the message that they're not strong enough. And especially if it's their parents or their teachers that keep them from taking risks. Oh, you can't climb that tree, you might fall down. Oh, you can't play tackle football. You might get hit by another player and get hurt. And then they think, oh, okay, I can't do those things because I'm not good enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not coordinated enough, right? So here's how this cycle of incompetence works. If we start at the top, adults assume some level of incompetence, that either the kids aren't strong enough or they can't handle it. So they ban some sort of risky play, some sort of challenging activity. This causes kids to actually be socially or physically incompetent because they don't get the ability to try those things out. So that's it. I know that was a lot. And those 6 ways of promoting resilience aren't even it. Like, you can go into more than that. You can look at things like teaching them about organization and time management skills. You can talk about trying not to give in to all of their needs and letting them learn to deal with um, the idea of not having something. Like when you see a child throwing a fit in the line at the grocery store. Yes, if you buy them a sucker, that might make them quiet, but is that really the right thing to do? And maybe they'll learn something by being told no sometimes. So, again, it's a very interesting topic. Thank you all for paying attention, and I will see you guys next time.